Welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast on the From the Heart Business Network. You've joined a global movement of sales professionals who are dedicated to being authentic and building trust. We call it Selling from the Heart. Together, we're on a mission to bring sincerity and substance to the sales profession we all love. Get ready to be inspired and equipped as we join our hosts, Larry Levine and Darrell Amy.
If you love the Selling from the Heart podcast, then you know how much we value authentic leadership and building relationships with heart. But here's the thing. Great leadership doesn't stop with sales. It starts at the top with CEOs who inspire trust, create meaningful cultures, and lead with purpose.
That's why we're excited to invite you to get involved with the Culture from the Heart podcast. On Culture from the Heart, we celebrate CEOs who are transforming their companies by putting people first. And we're asking you to help us find them.
Do you work for an incredible leader? Know a CEO who builds culture from the heart? Nominate them to be interviewed on the show. Together, let's spotlight the leaders who make businesses thrive by leading authentically.
So head over to cultureFromTheHeart.com to submit your nomination today. Because when leadership starts with the heart, culture and success follow. Hello and welcome back to the Selling from the Heart podcast. Your co-host, Darrell Amy, here today with Larry Levine. What's going on, Larry?
Hey, what isn't going on? Always good to see my dear friend, Darrell Amy. Hey, you know what, Darrell? We're in for a treat today. We're in for a really good treat.
You're going to love this conversation with our friend, Jeff Bajorek. Just get ready. We're so glad you've joined us. If you're new to Selling from the Heart, you've joined a growing community of sales professionals around the world from every industry that say, yeah, I believe in being genuine. I believe in being authentic. All of the things, building trust, all of these things are the ingredients of Selling from the Heart and things we hold in common with our friends all over the world.
Yeah, I just got to give a special shout out to a dear friend of mine, Steve Hamsa. You're a great leader up in the Dakotas in the United States. I appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing as you wave the flag around Selling from the Heart.
Absolutely. Here. Well, hey, today's guest is someone who has lived sales at every level, from the front lines to the C-suite. Jeff Bajorek is a sales strategist, keynote speaker, author, and consultant with more than 2 decades of experience helping organizations sharpen their messaging, strengthen performance, and build systems that actually scale. A former C-level sales executive and multi-time President's Club performer, Jeff specializes in helping teams define what good really looks like. So success stops being accidental and starts becoming repeatable. Through his speaking, training, and advisory work, Jeff helps leaders capture the instincts of top performers and turn them into the processes the whole team can execute. He's the author of Rethink the Way You Sell and Fundamentals of Prospecting, books that blend practical insight, humor, and real-world experience to elevate modern sales teams. And he's here to elevate us today. Jeff, welcome to Selling from the Heart. It is great to have you here.
Thank you, Darrell. Thank you for catching me mid-drink when you brought me in. I was not expecting that. I'm trying to wet my whistle before I hop in here, but loved it. You know, I really enjoyed listening to you read my bio because I was like, oh, wait a second, that sounds pretty good. Who wrote that? And
I like this guy.
I like Jeff Bajorek. I'm so glad he's here.
Yeah, you're a friend of Selling from the Heart, a multiple-time guest, and I am really excited about this conversation today. And as we kick it off, Jeff, you know the question we ask every guest on Selling from the Heart, and that is, what does Selling from the Heart mean to you from where you stand today?
You know, to me, I think it means integrity. And I define integrity a little bit differently than most. I think that most people will say integrity is doing what you say you're going to do, and hopefully saying you're going to do something that means something to you. I define integrity as alignment between what you sell, who you sell it to, how you sell it, and why. And so that integrity, that formula of all of those things being in alignment, that's what Selling from the Heart really means. When you can wake up every day and believe that you're someone worth talking to, you've got something worth talking about, and that you make a difference in the world. As a result of that, you're going to impact somebody positively on that day and hopefully a lot of days moving forward. And that's how I would define it.
Oh, this is so good. And I know we're going to dive into a really good conversation and use the B word that's near and dear to me, and it's belief.
Mm.
And not only do we have to believe in ourselves, other people got to believe in us. Our companies got to believe in us. Our leaders have to believe in us. And I'm a massive, massive believer, Jeff. It all starts with our internal beliefs around ourselves. And that has a lot to do with, I think, what you unpacked with integrity.
I refer to sales belief, in terms of a mechanism as swagger, right? And, Darrell, you mentioned a couple of the little books that I've written. I've never written anything quite the length of the Marketing Machine and the Selling from the Heart that like you all have. And I mean, Larry, you've got 2 books now that are both really good. I've read them both. I really appreciate them both. So I don't pretend to have put out the work that you all have, but in every one of those little books, I always end with keep your swagger.
Mm-hmm.
And that is step 7 of my 7 steps to sell like you. But, that belief is paramount, and it is so easily eroded. As soon as we take it for granted, it's gone. And so if you don't do something, you call it a daily affirmation. Larry, I know you wake up at ungodly times of the evening. You're 3 hours behind me, and you probably still wake up before I do.
I'm probably guarantee it.
And the things that you do on a daily basis to remind yourself that you're on the right path, to remind yourself that you're doing the right things, and not just the right things for yourself, but the right things for everyone around you. It's a tough mountain to climb. And when you're there, they say the wind blows harder at the top of the mountain, right? It's hard to stay up there. I think is the real battle that we all fight every day.
Well, speaking of battles, you've been through a season here in the recent episode, the episodes of the life of Jeff Bajorek. And I'm really excited to hear about this journey that you've been on. I know this is going to be helpful to so many people. So would you let us in on the season that you've been in and what's been happening with Jeff here in the not too distant past?
Well, where do you want me to start? Because it feels like everything is a chapter. Coming into this year, I really felt good coming into 2026. I'd done a lot of work in Q4 of 2025, and I think that's kind of the stuff that you want me to get into. But I'll preface it by saying, I don't know, every year for the last 10, I've been saying, oh, this year feels different. And I don't know if that year actually feels different or if it's just gas, right? Like, I mean, what's really going on? And when I thought about it, nothing ever really changed. Nothing ever really changed about me. Nothing, I had, you catch a break here and there, or you do something good, or someone passes you a referral and you think this is the gateway to that next step. But, what I really learned and what I've been focusing on this year is that in order to get the results that I'm looking for, I have to become the kind of person capable of accomplishing those results. You can set a goal for whatever you want. And if you don't have the structures, the systems, the mechanisms by which you can actually accomplish them, then the goal really doesn't mean much. The flip of that is, once you put those mechanisms and structures in place, the goal becomes something that you should probably accomplish, right? If what's the word I'm looking for? The chances, the opportunity, the probability, that's the word I'm looking for. The probability that you accomplish that goal goes through the roof when you have the foundational structures underneath you. And, for a long time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I left a very good career in medical device sales because the best job I ever had was not the best job I was ever going to have anymore. And it was just the life cycle. It was time for me to move on and do something else. I look back on that part of my career very fondly, but the industry I was in medical devices was not where I wanted to stay. And looking 10 years in the rearview mirror, I'm glad I left. But then I spent a weekend with Jeffrey Gitomer, who I know you both know. And, I licensed some of his content. I looked around the room. So I don't know if I can do this, but I don't know. I'm here. This has been an interesting weekend. And, I caught up with him on a break at in this seminar, and he just looked at me. He said, "You get this. I can tell." And right there, I started to believe, there's that word again, Larry, that maybe there was something there for me. So I just kind of pushed forward. Landed a big client right away, did really good work with them on a nearly full-time basis for about 5.5 years, but always felt like something was missing, right? We get into goal setting and stuff like that. Didn't feel like I had a goal to set. I was basically doing a lot of work for one company with the option to say no to them whenever I wanted and take on any other projects. Well, you move through. That company moved on because they had other priorities. It happens. I'm still very close with that company right now. But when, I moved forward, it's like, okay, well, now what do I want to do? Because that never felt like the right, fit either. And, a couple of years after that, I moved in and did some speaking and a bunch of fractional leadership roles, like a lot of consultants are these days. And that stuff wasn't for me either. Made a lot of money, was miserable. So again, not sustainable. Fast forward a little bit. March of 2024, I started a full-time role as a head of sales with a company, a former client that asked me to stay on. It was a merger situation, two former competitors coming together. And they hired me because, and I knew the CEO, and he said, look, Jeff, you know what good looks like, and you're willing to have tough conversations. We're going to need that. This is a really important gig. The future of this company depends on this. I said, okay, great. Here's my significance making me feel a little bit better, stand a little bit taller. I'm going to go in there. I know what good looks like. I'm going to make sure they do too. And we're going to build a world-class sales organization. And I was ready to have those tough conversations, probably a little too ready to have those tough conversations because after 6 months, a lot going on, it was not a good fit. I was asked to leave. I don't miss that role because my approach to it got me off on the wrong foot, and it didn't work out the way I was hoping it would. But when we talk about this most recent season of life, I've had a lot of times to reflect on why that didn't work. And it was because I knew what good looked like and I was willing to have tough conversations, but I never stopped to appreciate, to win over the hearts of the sales reps who were doing great work at that time and are still today, to this day. I've caught up with a couple of them, but I didn't stop to listen to them. I didn't stop to win them over. I didn't stop to pay attention and really understand what good already looked like at that organization. And so that, in a way, my biggest professional defeat thus far, in my career, that has opened a door to perspective to me to recognize some of the things that I can help companies with so that they don't make the same mistakes that I did. Because it's really easy to make that mistake. I'm not going to let myself off the hook for it, but I will at least give myself the grace that I just had the wrong point of view coming in, and a different one probably would have led to a different outcome.
By the way, hey, Jeff, thanks for sharing. Jeff and I are dear friends. I've had a window into some of this already, but there's a word that you use that I had to have to bring to the surface, and it's a C word. It's connection. And for all the sales leaders out there that are watching this and the sales professionals that are watching this, we deeply believe that selling from the heart is how well you connect to yourself determines how well you connect to others. And just allow that to sit with you all for a second. And there's a purpose behind this, because if you want salespeople, if you're a sales leader, if you want salespeople to really go out and run through brick walls for you and help grow the company and all that, you got to connect to these people at a different level, which means you got to pop that mirror in front of your face and ask yourself, how well am I connecting to myself? And I think you've done a really, really good job at that, Jeff. I just got to applaud you for it.
Thank you. It's taken a lot of work. I think it's really easy to drink our own Kool-Aid as sales professionals, as leaders, as independent consultants, right? We do what we do because we have enough ego to believe that we can do it. That's a very powerful drive, and it's necessary. Like, a key component of swagger is a little bit, the right amount of ego. Now, when the ego gets a little carried away, you start getting a little too big for your britches. Sometimes it can knock you back down, or something needs to knock you back down, rather, to kind of at least make you see the perspective around you. And I'll tell you, I remember it was Friday afternoon. I was asked to leave, and I'm driving home, and I made a couple of phone calls. One of them was to a very good friend of mine, a mentor of mine. And he said, Jeff, you're going to grieve this. Make sure you allow yourself to do it. Now, he had been through this a couple times in his career too. So he had this wisdom to be able to share with me. And I thought I knew what that meant. And it wasn't until I had gone through it for a little bit where I started realizing, whoa, I think I'm allowing myself to see this. I think I'm connecting with the real part of me that needs to see this stuff. But Maybe not. And so it's one of those things where, self-awareness can be a little sneaky sometimes. You can think you have it when you don't really. Just because you had more than you did yesterday doesn't mean you have enough, right? So it's one of those things where, it's been a year and a half, for me, the process is, I think I'm mostly through that. I have enough perspective to start seeing some real positives in it. And it's opened up some new doors for me. So I'm excited now about it instead of being, feeling like the failure, right? I mean, like, let's call it what it was. It didn't go the way I expected to. I am very proud of a lot of the work that I did, but I also look back regretting some of the things that I didn't do that would have made that work easier.
Such a, one of my good friends and former Olympic tennis coach says, failure is the most fertile ground to grow anything on this planet. And as much as I hate that to be true, it is true. And I can tell that there's a lot of great stuff growing right now and fruit happening. So share more about the journey and some things that you're discovering about not only yourself, but about life and success and in sales.
It's hard to condense a year and a half into 25 minutes, but for me, I think it was just time to sit and think about it. And there was this tension for me. There was hey, it didn't work out, like the black and white of it. Impossible to argue with it. It's very objective. But then I talk about the other side of that equation where, well, wait a second, I'm really proud of the work that I did. I did some really tough stuff. I made it easier for whoever's coming in behind me because, they don't have to do that. Right. Like, and so trying to reconcile that. And I think what it comes down to, though, is that more than one thing can be true. And as soon as I allowed myself to recognize that more than one thing could be true, now all of a sudden I'm sitting in a different reality. And then I can let the emotion go behind it a little bit more every day, right? Because that's how, grieving works essentially. And I don't think we use the word grief enough in a sales context, right? There's so much bravado. It's you won or you lost. And if you lost, that's fine, but you don't have time to grieve. You have to go find another win. And, through the process, I also had to define what a win looked like. Because now, what did I want to do again? Did I want to go back and find another corporate role? Did I want to reopen my consulting business again? Did I, if I was going to do either of those, what did good look like in those pursuits? And so there were so many things, over that time that I had to stop and consider. And in some ways, I made multiple decisions, chose multiple paths, and got far enough down those paths, respectively, where I was like, no, this ain't it. Cross it off the list. Back, not to ground zero, but pretty close, because, okay, we're going to start in another direction. And, what I will give myself credit for was paying attention to a lot of other people at similar career stages to myself, similar ages to myself, who have also found similar journeys. And what I mean by that is it's actually a lot more rare than people realize for someone to go to school, come out of school, get a job, get promoted, switch companies, get promoted again, and then ultimately end up running the show on a very straight upward and to the right trajectory and live happily ever after. I started paying attention to a lot of friends of mine who look very successful on the outside, but when you look behind the curtain, it's like, oh, actually, we're struggling quite a bit over here in this way or that way. And I give a ton of credit to my wife. It was probably, I think it was last summer, maybe it was last fall. And she said, Jeff, look, I know you're looking, I know you're searching. I'm proud of the work you're doing, but don't forget this. When our kids come home, they want to bring their friends. When their friends come over, they like it here. They feel safe here. It feels warm here. It feels like home here, even though their homes are actually somewhere else. And I took all that to mean, and she summarized it really well. She said, we're getting the right stuff right now. So as frustrated as you might be, and keep swinging, go out there. I got you. I support you. But don't forget to give yourself the grace that we're getting the right stuff right by all the ways that we can measure that. And that really grounded me and helped, because you know, when you're out there thrashing, when you're treading water, it's a lot easier when you can hold on to something, when something feels like solid ground. And for me, home and my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my kids felt really grounding.
This is so good. So you got to unpack this even more. I love what your wife. I no, seriously, I love what your wife said. Get the right stuff right. You gotta unpack that some more, because some people are gonna go, I kind of get it, but where are you going with getting the right stuff right?
I will say that really for my entire career, if not my entire life, I would say at least safely from my postgraduate career, I have maybe identified more than most with my career personally. Right. What I do is very closely aligned with who I am. And a lot of that has to do with maybe a warped definition of selling that I have, which is, I mean, this is just how we interact with people. Right. I asked you guys if you had a spot on a podcast for me. You said yes. So I made a sales call. You made a sale. No transfer of dollars, but like, you're now my customers. Thank you. I appreciate that. Right. Like that's how I see how we have how every interaction that we have with people throughout the life. So in that way, maybe more than most, I really identify with who I am as a person, with who I am as a salesman. But when I really think about it, in my quiet moments, what I do professionally is a means to what my real calling is, which is to be the husband my wife deserves and the father my kids deserve. And so it's like, okay, what Laura says to me is, hey, we're getting the right stuff right. It's, hey, I know you're thrashing around out there, but when you look at the main things, how's our relationship, Jeff? It's really solid. The kids at almost 15 and almost 17 still like you, and they light up when you come home. Right. I feel like I've been on borrowed time with that for years, and I'm just going to keep playing with house money because like, you know, let that ride. Cause you know, most people, I don't know that I felt the same way about my parents when I was that age, and I had pretty good relationships with them. Right. So getting the right things right meant my highest priorities. However, I bring money into the household is really secondary to making that a household and a relationship and a space that is worth bringing money into. Right. So that's what I mean when I say getting the right things right.
I want to come back to this question of what does good look like? And you know, maybe another way to say that is what's enough? Like what are you going after? And if you know, and maybe it's sequential. Let's figure out the right things are we want to get right. And then when it comes to our sales career, wherever, you know, you find yourself in this, what does good look like? Because one of the best things about sales that we always say when we're recruiting is there's no cap on your earnings. And then what's going to happen as a result of that is there's no cap on your expectations. And so you said at the beginning of the show, it's another year. It's going to be the best year yet. And we're going to do more this year and earn more. And, you know, yes, of course. And the dark side of that is we find ourselves in this place where we've never achieved enough. And it is you know, it can be a really dark place to get to when all of that. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, the things that matter most, well, they're in the, you know, they're in the way down the priority list. You haven't thought about those because you're like, how am I going to do more this year than last year? And this is one of the things about the sales profession that I think we've got to continually ask is, what does good look like? Help us out here, Jeff, because you've been doing deep dive on this in your own personal life.
I think you've tied together two topics for me that I speak about individually, but haven't really tied together in this way, Darrell. And so my brain's a bit of a knot right now. But
I like doing stuff like that.
I will tell you this. It was probably a year or so ago. I sat down with ChatGPT, who I use as a brainstorming partner. I use Claude and ChatGPT independently. And I asked ChatGPT about enough. I said, well, wait a second. I think I said, you know, when I was a sales rep, the thing that made me successful, and this was part of my kind of soul searching, looking, what do I want to do when I grow up kind of thing. I said, when I had a good idea of what enough was, particularly when someone else decided that for me, i.e. a quota, or here's where your bonus gets hit, or whatever. Once I had that threshold covered, it felt like I could relax. Well, then I started a business and had no concept of what enough looked like, because I was responsible for things. And then also, as a driven guy, I think a pretty clear type A guy, it's like, well, if you're not growing, you're dying. And so what's more and more? And when you constantly think about, we grow every day, we don't ever stop getting better, it's really tough to lose perspective of what enough actually looks like. And I think when you really look back on it and you look at all the things you do and you look at all the things you don't necessarily need to do, what is actually enough is probably a lot less than what you think you need. But I sat down with an LLM to just tease that apart. I was like, I'll brainstorm with this thing for 15 minutes, maybe get a good piece on a Sunday morning to send out to my newsletter, and that'll be good. I talked to this thing for like 40 minutes and I stopped. I said, this is deep. This is deeper than I want to go. This went into societal beliefs and all this other stuff. I'm like, man, I think I just wanted it to tell me what my quota was. and it ended up
so good.
Like, this is going to be so much deeper than I have the ability to really get into here. Right.
Yeah.
And so I put it aside. But when you think about how that ties to what good looks like here, right? And I think that the term I've been using, particularly in my work with companies, is what does good look like here? Because what good looks like out there, what it looks like for Acme Incorporated is not what it looks like for XYZ.com. That's just not how it works. And quite frankly, the source of any failure I've had, whether it's with a client or whether it's with that job or whether it's with, myself leaving one job and going to another, it's like, wait, I do things this way. This is, let's go. And then you get there and it's like, no, that's not how it works. And you have to take those lumps and you have to learn those lessons. And so, what good looks like here, enough is going to look different here than it does somewhere else, right? Like, for instance, I'll share this. I spent a majority of my, pre-entrepreneurship career in a publicly held company. We had no choice. We had to grow every year. We had to grow. And they paid me more when I grew. It was nice. Like, the incentives were aligned. That was fine. Contrast that to some private companies that I work with, whether they're PE backed or family owned or whatever. A lot of times these companies get to a spot where, life's pretty good. I could grow. I don't really need to. Would it change my life? No. Do I want to make sure my business doesn't shrink? Yeah, I want to make sure. But we have a good year, we have a bad year. Maybe we have a less, we have a lower year in terms of revenue, but profitability went up and everybody's happy. So that sometimes you win a big deal, sometimes you don't. I know we all work with a lot of manufacturers and manufacturers reps and things like that. Profit margin is what matters at the end of the day, more than the top line. And so we must grow at all costs is par for the course of a publicly held company. In a privately owned family company, it makes Thanksgiving weird, right? So, what good looks like for every company is going to be a little bit different, and it should be, because that's what the secret sauce is all about. And that's why you get certain types of people who are happy at one company versus the next. That's why culture is so important. I know you guys do a ton of work with culture. The first rule of culture is identify what yours is. And you don't identify culture by putting a sign on the wall. You identify culture by hanging with your people. You identify culture by getting to know them. You identify culture by asking questions and then listening for the answers, not just waiting for your turn to speak.
So good. So good. What an amazing conversation. And what a like the homework from this episode. Usually we're like, hey, take 5 minutes and reflect on this. We're like, this is not a take 5 minutes. And this didn't take 40 minutes with ChatGPT. This is These are some really, really crucial questions to ask. And Jeff, I just want to say thank you for sharing your journey, being transparent and authentic here today, because I know this is helpful to me. I know this is going to be helpful to a lot of people out there. And I know everyone's asking, hey, how do I get more Jeff Bajorek in my life?
Who asked that? Nobody asks that.
Oh, they always ask.
Larry did. Larry does.
There's a couple of things. So LinkedIn is, I probably spend more time on LinkedIn than I should, but if you're on LinkedIn, please connect with me. Tell me that you found me through this show. Love to connect with people. And I've got a fair amount of followers, but not so many that I don't still do the whole thing myself, right? So LinkedIn's a great way to follow me. You can find me on my website at jeffbajorek.com. And if you're interested in finding out how well you know what good looks like in your sales organization, you can go to jeffbajorek.com/heart. So I've created a landing page for this particular podcast, and there's a very brief self-assessment. It's 14 questions. It's totally free, and awesome. I think it'll change your perspective on how well do I know what really makes us different in the marketplace, and how well do I know why my best customers buy from me. And there's no strings attached. There's nothing. Take the assessment and see what you learn.
I love it.
So good. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Dude, thanks for having me. I didn't realize you were going to rip my guts open in front of all these people, but
it's all good.
It is all good. It's only been recent, or it's really only been recently. I don't know, whatever the proper grammar is there, that I've been really able to make this connection and then start talking about it. And this was just a really great environment. Thanks for creating this space to make me feel comfortable to do that.
It's our pleasure.
Love it. What a great conversation, Larry. And I think the questions that came up here today, these bear some, significant time and reflection on an ongoing basis. Am I getting it right where, it matters most? And what does good look like? Great, powerful stuff for all of us.
Oh, I just got to play on the last thing you just said, because my head was spinning listening to Jeff at the very end of this. It's like, this is what was racing through my head. What does good look like right now, here at this very moment? And, I think Jeff was talking to me through this whole podcast, because I've been guilty of a lot of this stuff. And he's challenged me to think about, what does good look like right now, and just accept it. Just be willing to accept it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, hey, thank you for joining us this week. Thank you for helping us grow this community of like-hearted sales professionals, sharing the podcast, leaving reviews, following us on YouTube. All of these things are helping us build this movement of authenticity and trust right here in this sales profession we all love. We've got great guests coming up. I can't wait to share some of the upcoming episodes with you. If there's someone you'd like to hear on the Selling from the Heart podcast, let us know. We'd love to talk to him. We're always working to bring new voices. Well, thanks for joining us this week. Till next time, keep being genuine, keep being authentic, keep building trust. Figure out what good looks like to you. And most of all,
sell from the heart.